for a second time has got the Distinguished Educator Award in 2009, and he is in the Hall of Fame of the East Suburban Conference for all of his teaching credentials. Please welcome Dr. Schmidt.
Well, good morning. Good morning. And welcome. I'm really honored to be part of the breakfast this morning. This started about 2 years ago when I met Mr. Donovan at Justin Cruz's Eagle Scout ceremony. And I think the name came up a little bit, and they asked at that time, well, would you mind giving a little talk to a few guys at Park Ridge Country Club and talk about life? I said, well, that sounds like fun, maybe 25 guys for a little breakfast. And I didn't quite realize it'd be 150 of the elite of Park Ridge. So I truly am honored to be with you. I'll start out by doing a little introduction of the people that are so important in my journey. And that's what I was asked to talk about, my journey and how God fits into that journey. So I have my two brothers here. Don't have to stand. Paul and Bill. There were four of us. Charlie, who I worked with for 41 years at St. Pat's, died 2 years ago, but I know for sure he's with us in spirit today. My other guests, of course, you were introduced to the students at St. Patrick, two 1975 grads of St. Pat's who I've now been friends with for over 40 years. Steve Gaughan is a Park Ridge resident, and Steve is actually emceeing our big transition party tonight. Brother Conrad's retiring as president, and I'm really leaving the principal's position to take that position this evening, and Steve has been a wonderful alum of our school, so he's a big part of St. Pat's High School. Emmett McGovern, his classmate, was an all-state basketball player for us. He's here with his son, Emmett Jr., and they are very loyal St. Pat's alums at our school. Two of my Western golf friends, Mike Saladino, who's a member here at Park Ridge Country Club, and Mike Donovan, who lives just down the street. Initially, when we got Mike's first son to come to St. Pat's, it's kind of a funny golf story for all you golfer guys. We're playing a little match at Medina, and at that time I think Mike was going to have Billy, his oldest, who is now a sophomore at Missouri, come to Maine South. It's a great school and an easy walk to school. And so once I got Donna involved a little bit in St. Pat's and maybe saw the value of our school, we had a little challenge match at Medina. It's still controversial. I think I won it 1-up, but we played for Billy and where he'd go to school. and it worked out beautifully, but proudly great friends with Mike, and we've been on the board of directors with the Western Golf Association since 1999. But now he's got another son, Jack, who's a junior and a straight A student, and doing so many great things at our school, and I know Mike's going to be there in a couple years. Also, Ron Kapelneck. Where's Ron sitting? I know he's here. Ron is a 1976 grad of St. Pat's. He's also a Park Ridge resident. His son went to St. Pat's, Jimmy, and all his brothers went to St. Pat's. And by the way, all these guys that are in there graduated in the 70s. Back in the day, I was the dean of students. So somehow, these guys went under the radar screen because they're awesome guys, but I do want to thank you for being here this morning. So I was asked to talk a little bit about my journey, and it's really kind of a vocation, calling from God type journey, and so many things had to happen for me to still be at St. Pat's and for next year to take over a different position. That's why I know it was a calling, and there was someone from above that made this all happen. We grew up in Skokie at St. Peter's Parish. There were 4 boys. My parents went to St. Pete's. Everybody, that was Nile Center in the old day, if you're familiar with Skokie, St. Peter's, the parish right there on the V at Nile Center in Lincoln. Very sports-driven family. Paul, as it turned out, was a big star football player at St. George. All-American, went to Michigan, played there. I was a golfer guy at Purdue. Billy was a hockey player at Illinois, so we're always battling the Big Ten whenever we have some action in the family. But they've been a huge part of my life. Best friends with them, and they've been an important part of of what's going on with me. So where does this fit into my career at St. Pat's? Well, once Paul decided to go to St. George, my father was in the first graduating class of St. George, 1931. Paul went there. You might know the Zachary family from Park Ridge. Jack's a great friend of our family. They lived on Home Street here, where my wife and I lived for a number of years. But once Paul decided to go to St. George, that was in 1954, because he's a 58 grad, we all kind of followed suit. And the brothers, who were avid golfers at the time, and my father was a club champion at McHenry and great player himself, he would take the brothers up to McHenry all the time. And so on Sunday afternoons, there were many dinners at our house in Skokie where there were more Christian brothers than there were Schmidt brothers, because they were always kind of looking for a free meal. And it worked out great. So my mom and dad were very influential at St. George, to the extent that Dad was on the finance board. He was a CPA, was solid on the financial end. Mom got involved in the Parents Club. So the brothers were a huge part of our life. So in 1967, some of you might even remember this, there was a big strike at St. Pat's High School. They walked the picket line in the spring of '67. There was probably 40 lay teachers that were let go. They weren't too smart to the extent that they walked on a contract that they had already signed. So when they picketed for a change, the brothers decided, well, listen, you can walk, we'll find some new teachers. Well, with that in mind, I was just graduating from Purdue. I actually had a job at Inland Steel. My wife and I lived in Skokie, and they recruited us. They just said, look, we need good young people, and they thought the Schmidt boys, Charlie and myself, would work out well as young teachers. So my wife was very supportive of that, and 1967 was a huge year in my life. I got married, smartest thing I ever did, that I married well. Got this job at St. Pat's really because the Christian brothers and how highly we thought of them, and they thought highly of our family, so they recruited us to do that. At the same time, why do you do something like that? I was teasing Mike Saladino. He said, why are you at St. Pat's? When I started there in 1967, my pay was $6,700, and that was coaching two sports. Coached basketball and tennis. Thankfully, my wife worked at G.D. Searles. She made enough money that we could make it go, and I was able to, work without making a lot of money. But she was also smart enough and a priority to know that that made me happy. I wanted to give that a try, and she was good with that. And besides, when I started, I thought it would maybe be a 2 or 3 year stint. I was going to get my CPA and keep moving on. And really, it's been history for 46 years on that. I've just enjoyed the kids so much at St. Pat's High School that it's been a great vocation for me. So also in '67, I got to meet one of the great guys of the world, Max Carland. You probably remember his name, all you sports junkies that are in your 60s. He was the leading coach in basketball in the state of Illinois. Very religious guy. Lived in the house next to our parking lot at St. Pat's. And of course, he was my boss. For 20 years, I coached basketball with him. But more importantly, he was just a guy that really had his priorities in line with regard to what's important. Single his entire life. I know how generous he was to charities. A very religious guy. As competitive as we were, and our basketball teams under his tutelage were just great basketball teams. It was more important about what kind of person you were, whether you went to Mass with your family on Sunday, all the important parts of life. And so that was a tremendous influence between Lynn and Coach Carlin. I sure had two great people mentoring me. 10 years later, 1977, kind of fast forward important parts of my life. I had just finished my master's degree at Loyola, and very proudly our family, my dad was a professor at Loyola University, and all four of the boys received their master's degrees. But I think sometimes, and you as parents, I think you can appreciate this. I think you should get a gold star if your kids stay friends. If your sibling, if all the siblings actually still like each other, respect each other, hang out with each other, you deserve a gold star. And our parents sure deserve that gold star. At that same time, Lynn was always pushing on school, so I started my doctorate degree. I was still coaching for another 10 years. Takes time, but I went to school once a week, went at night, took the time to do that. So getting near 1987, when all of a sudden I was thinking about, I love being dean of students. But believe me, you see the same 10% of kids when you're a dean of students, all the time. And they're great kids. But I needed a change too, and I think the brothers knew that. So in 1987, the Christian Brothers, we have 5 high schools in Chicago. De La Salle, St. Joe's, Montini, Driscoll, and St. Pat's. They all mandated that we'd have a president, and the president was going to charge with developing a board, and then they'd have to hire a principal. Well, timing was perfect. Brother Conrad, who's been my friend for 35 years at St. Pat's, was the principal. They made Brother president, and I became principal, appointed by Brother Conrad in 1987. At the same time, the brothers were pretty smart. After Vatican II, as you know, a lot of the congregations lost numbers. They made some fiscal planning to the schools that you better start segmentally look at what's going to happen when all the religious leave your schools, because your budget is going to be paying lay people. So that all happened about 1987, and again, why would that happen at that time? Well, I had just got my doctorate degree, timing was there, and it worked out very well for me at St. Pat's. So really, you fast forward that to right now, it's been 46 years I've been at the school. Back in 1967 when I married Lynn, we were together for 45 years. She passed away last September. That's been a little bit of a hit. Excuse me. But here we are, this evening is our transition party. So we're moving on. Brother Conrad is gracefully turning 75 and has also just done a great job at our school, so he is going to retire, and I'm going to assume a new position next year, which I'm ready and want a new challenge. You can see why I love being at St. Pat's when the 3 boys that were here and my guests on what great young people they are, that has sure energized me every day of my life. So how does God fit into this? Well, you can pick up a little bit of the conversation from the history, but I don't know if you're familiar with Kairos retreats. I'm sure our 2 rectors, John and Justin, the music was beautiful. And on these Kairos retreats, they are student-driven retreats, 4 days out of the building. I think it's the greatest thing we do at St. Pat's. Kairos is Greek terms for God's time. And really, you get 4 days. We all are on our own individual journey. You get to take a look at that journey and where Christ fits into your life. And I know the rectors, when you guys played such beautiful music, before all the speeches on Kairos, they liven it up, don't they, with some music? So that was beautiful to see today, that this is very similar to what we do on Kairos retreats. And on those retreats, I try to make them every year. I've done them I'm very proudly went on one about 10 years ago with our friends from Carmel High School in Mundelein. And they're a big part of our mission at St. Pat's High School. And my talk, when I give that, all the students give a talk, and 4 adult leaders give a talk. Mine is always God's friendship. And how I turn God into my life is really how I treat other people. And by loving other people, that's how I love God. Every day I just try to fire up, whether it's with the students or the faculty or our parents or whatever. That's my mission. And I know that all of these things, they can't all be by coincidence that things happen. On how I've maneuvered through 46 years and how everything worked out at the right time to be able to have a vocation at St. Pat's High School. I'm going to close off with really a couple of a paragraph and then a short reading that Lynn wrote. I don't know if you've read anything by Mitch Albom, but he's a very reflective, good writer. He Tuesdays with Maury, 5 people you meet in heaven, one more day when you find out how important and valuable our moms were and are. But in Tuesdays with Maury, he would reflect with Maury in this book, and he made movies out of that one and also One More Day. But I want to read you just a reflective paragraph that he wrote that has had some meaning to me. So many people walk around with a meaningless life. They seem half asleep even when they're doing busy things they think are important. This is because they're chasing the wrong things. The way you get meaning in life is to devote yourself to loving others, devote yourself to your community, like you guys do here. This is awesome what you do. And devote yourself to creating something that gives you purpose and meaning. That's Mitch album out of Tuesdays with Maury. And how I've really been able to handle the whole thing with Lynn is what she asked me to read. Really, she was smart enough, always a step ahead of me, really at her funeral. All right, death is nothing at all. I have only slipped into the next group. Whatever we were to each other, we still are. Call me by my own familiar name. Speak to me in the easy way you always did. Laugh as we always laughed. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without effort. Life means all it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolutely unbroken continuity. Why should I be out of your mind because I'm out of your sight? I'm but waiting for you for an interval somewhere very near. All is well. Nothing is past, nothing is lost. One brief moment and will all as it was before. Only better, infinitely happier and forever. We will all be one together with Christ. Amen. Thank you.